So long before Spotlight, long before various documentaries in the States and Canada about this category, the Boys of Vincent rocked the world with its very honest look through a fictional lens because no real names were used of the various events that took place at the Mount Cashel Orphanage in St. John's, Newfoundland, which was one of a number of child sexual abuse scandals at a Roman Catholic Church. The original movie came out in '92, and it covers the sexual and physical abuse of a number of orphans by brothers, headed by brother Peter Lavin, played by the great Henry Cherney. The second film, The Boys of St. Vincent, 15 years later, covers the trial of the brothers and the long-term effects of the abuse 15 years later. Now, the miniseries was to premiere on Canadian TV in late '92, but due to concurrent trials of 4 Ontario priests who were being tried for similar cases, a court injunction banned the broadcast in Ontario and Quebec. The ban was later overturned after appeals at the federal and provincial courts, and the miniseries received a nationwide broadcast in late '93. The Boys of St. Vincent received widespread critical acclaim. It was included in the list of the top 10 films of '94, even though being a TV film, by Rolling Stone, Entertainment Weekly, and USA Today. It won the grand prize at the Banff TV Festival, as well as a Peabody Award and a National Board of Review Award. Now, part 1 deals with 1975 at the St. Vincent Orphanage, a young brother, Peter Lavin. Kevin Reevy, a 10-year-old abused child, tries to avoid Lavin's attentions by running away, but is returned to the orphanage by police. When Lavin tries to embrace and caress him, Kevin resists and protests, "You are not my mother." This causes Lavin to violently react to the boy, and Kevin is severely beaten with the buckle end of the brother's belt. Stephen Lunny is another abused boy whose older brother Brian tries to protect him. Finn, the orphanage janitor, notices Kevin's injuries and wordily sends him to hospital. Lavin fires Finn, but Finn hires a detective to investigate the orphanage, and word starts to spread in the local community in Newfoundland about possible abuse at St. Vincent. However, the investigation is hampered by an institutional cover-up. Because the orphanage is about to receive a grant from the government that will go towards renovations, the town's police chief wants to avoid a strain of political scandal. The investigation is ultimately buried by the head of the Justice Department and church officials, and no arrests are made. Lavin and several brothers are merely transferred, sort of like what happened in Spotlight. 15 years later, Lavin has left the priesthood and lives in Montreal with his wife and 2 sons. A cop comes to the door to arrest him on charges of sexual assault, gross indecency, and misconduct, to which Lavin pleads not guilty. The St. Vincent victims, now men in their mid-20s, are called upon to give evidence in the trial. Brian is since happily married and has 2 children, but has not seen Stephen in 7 years. The 2 brothers reconcile at the trial, but Kevin is haunted by his abuse and has nightmares. Stephen is emotionally destroyed by the defense advocate, who reveals that he abused 7-year-old boys at the orphanage when he was 16. Stephen then takes his own life with an overdose of drugs. His death ultimately prompts Kevin to give evidence against Lavin, but Lavin remains in denial even to his wife. His fate is left unanswered, or as is the question posed by his wife at the end of the second film, as to whether he ever molested his own 2 young sons. Now, key actors in it include Mary Walsh as the radio host, has a great performance, Sebastian Spence as Kevin, and the David Hewlett as Stephen Lunny. Now, this was a co-production of the CBC and National Film Board and Montreal de la Production Téléaction Incorporated. For the orphan characters, the production settled with young boys with no prior acting experience who act alongside experienced professionals like Henry Cherney. The miniseries were shot over a period of 5 months, beginning in November '91. The filmmakers did extensive prep work for the boys and parents to ensure they fully understood the grave nature of the story, including working with experts in child sexual abuse, counseling, and a psychotherapist was on set to create a safe, collaborative environment. Now, the miniseries was set to air in Canada December 6, '92, but the broadcast was blocked 2 days by the Ontario Court of Justice. The judge reasoned the broadcast could sway public opinion against 4 members of the Christian Brothers Order, who at the time were being tried for actual cases of abuse in Ontario. Now, though the broadcast had a limited reach, it managed to attract 2 million viewers. The CBC and FB partnered with Kids Help Phone, hotline that was available for viewers to speak to a counselor. Set up because of the dearth of service for adult male survivors of abuse, the hotline ended up fielding more than 300 calls. The miniseries was eventually broadcast to all of Canada in '93 after the trials of the Christian Brothers concluded. Ivan Fican, CBC's then Vice President of Arts and Entertainment, appealed to the Supreme Court in late '92 to overturn the lower court's decision completely. 2 years later, the Supreme Court established a legal principle that protected free expression in a decision known as Dagenet versus Canadian Broadcasting Corp. Daniel Henry, the CBC senior legal counsel at the time, said the court decision changed the equation a year since. It's become established as the bedrock principle which all publication restrictions are weighed. Now, first screened in the U.S. at a Telluride Film Festival, it also garnered a theatrical in New York City, where it received praise from Steven Spielberg and Pauline Kael. A&E aired the two-part series on February 19th and 20th, 1995. A few scenes, including one set in a shower room and others depicting verbal and physical abuse, were edited for broadcast. On the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, The Boys of St. Vincent holds an approval rating of 100% based on 7 reviews. Janet Mays of the New York Times said the story is told with a matter-of-factness that gives it solid credibility of a documentary. Mr. Smith observed St. Vincent's daily routine, lets him imply a great deal about the boys and the Catholic brothers' behavior. Roger Ebert, unfortunately, was less positive and wrote the film, was disappointingly superficial, offering no insight of depth or characterization, and simply showing us evil clergymen and victimized children as cliches and morality play. The Globe and Mail praised the movie, and no drama had ever depicted the brutality of trusted authority figures in the Catholic Church. This in the wake of 89's massive abuse scandal in Mount Cashel and Newfoundland, in such vivid terms against children no less than prime time. The film took a cinematic approach to TV storytelling that predated the Netflix revolution by 2 decades. 23 years before Spotlight, it defined in dramatic fashion the deep psychological and institutional roots of abuse and the power some have to cover up such devastating crimes. Banff TV Festival won the grand prize in 1993. Boston Society of Film Critics Awards and Chicago Film Critics Association Awards. Best Actor, Henry Czerny. 94 at the Geminis. Best Miniseries. Best Lead Actor in Czerny. Best Performance Actress Supporting Role, Lise Roy. Best Direction. Best Writing. Best Picture Editing. Best Sound Dramatic Program. Also nominated for Best Supporting Actor, Brian Dooley, and Best Costume Design, Dennis Spirit Douglas. Independent Spirit Awards, Best Foreign Film, John Smith nominated. National Board of Review Awards and Peabody Awards, Best Film Made for Cable TV, won the awards. Year on List, second in the Miami New Times, fifth Peter Travers, Rolling Stone, fifth Stephen Hunter, The Baltimore Sun, Mike Clark, USA Today, and Janet Mays, The New York Times. So again, a very, very well-respected Canadian movie, and I think Spotlight could not have been made were it not for this movie. And if you can watch this movie as a Canadian without basically getting angry, you're not a Canadian. This was terrible what were done to the children in my region of the province as well, Father Pico and different people. And I think it's amazing that a publicly funded group like the CBC, where people are trying to stop them, this is an example what the CBC can do for all of Canada. How many lives did he save and how many villains were brought into light by this movie or this miniseries? Quite a few. So if you like what we're doing here, we're a CBC Tribute Podcast. Let us know what you like, comment, subscribe, or share.